Uh, Years ago, when I was elected, I was the youngest elected county attorney in the state. I was 31 years old. That was a long time ago. It was 25 years ago. And I was in Juab County, and I had a man come with his lawyer who had been caught with 2 pounds of marijuana. He had purchased 2 pounds of marijuana in California, was going to take it to the University of Montana to sell. And he got caught in Juab County by the Highway Patrol. And his lawyer came to me, and he was an 18-year-old kid. His lawyer came to me and said, you know, what can we do? And my first thought was, well, you know, why do I care about this? You know, drug bought in California, going to Montana, get stopped in Juab County. Now we're going to pay to prosecute it. We're going to pay to defend it. We're going to pay to incarcerate it. And you know, the guy's going to get 60 or 90 days in the county jail. We can put that felon across his forehead, and away he goes. It's like Brandon release sort of thing, you know. And when we're having this conversation, I had this epiphany, really, about what my obligation as the holder of this prosecutorial power, because, you know, power can be used for good, and it should be used for good, and it should be used to benefit the community. And so I looked at this guy, this kid, and I said to him, I said, can you tell me what you want to do when you grow up? You're only 18 years old. And he said, well, you know, I'd like to join the Coast Guard. I said, well, you know, you're not really heading in the right direction to join the Coast Guard. You know, this 2 pounds of marijuana is going to kind of mess you up for that. And then it hit me. I said, you know, and this was the making of my prefiling diversion program that, you know, started out 25 years ago. I said to the guy, I said, listen, and his lawyer's just kind of sitting there, and I'm just having this one-on-one conversation with this defendant. I said, listen, I'll make you a deal. If you want to admit right now that you possess these 2 pounds of marijuana, so that I never have to, you know, I mean, so that if you violate the deal that I'm going to make with you, you come back here and get sentenced. But if I will give you, option number one is plead guilty, become a felon, spend your 60 or 90 days in jail, go back to Montana, and you'll see there, you know, what your life looks like after that. Or if you want, turn back around, call your dad that you just got busted with 2 pounds of marijuana, and that's a part of the deal. You got to call your dad and tell him. And then you got to go enlist in the Coast Guard. And if you go enlist in the Coast Guard, you got to give your pay stub to your dad, and your dad's got to fax it to me so that I know your dad's in the loop here. Because I'll tell you, I have learned over 30 years that those that have strong family involvement in their criminal justice process are far more likely to succeed than those that don't. And so I was looping dad into the equation. I said, you know, you give dad your pay stub, you have your dad fax that pay stub to me. This was back in the days of fax. And I said, if I get a pay stub from you from the Coast Guard every month for the next 36 months, I will dismiss this case. And where you might have been a convicted felon for the rest of your life, I'll give you the opportunity to never be a felon. Well, he took that deal. And he went back to California, and he enlisted in the Coast Guard. And I kept getting these pay stubs until about month 27. Then they changed. And they changed because he had gotten promoted. Now he was a sergeant in the Coast Guard. And you know, I wish I would have been smart enough to keep in contact with the guy. I'd like to see where he is 25 years later. But I can promise you he's in a different spot because a small town prosecutor cared enough about him to find a different result. And I can promise you that society is so much better off because a small town prosecutor took a risk on a kid and sent him on a course of service to his country rather than just processing through the system. It's those kinds of solutions that we need to find in as many cases as possible. But we can't find those solutions if people in the system don't have a heart that's willing to be open to different possibilities than what we currently do. And that's one of my chief reasons for, it's what I do in Utah County, is I hammer that over and over and over and over to my prosecutors, that our responsibility as prosecutors, the authority that I have given you as my deputies, is more than simply to prosecute. Embodied in that is the obligation to go try to make society better. And that's what we need to do at a statewide level.